All right, let's dive into one of the most powerful monologues ever written. We're joining Job right at this critical moment. This is his final plea, right before God finally answers from the whirlwind. He's done arguing with his friends. Now he turns his focus inward, upward, and to the very nature of life itself.
I mean, that's really the question here, isn't it? What do you say when you have absolutely nothing left to lose? Job has lost it all, his family, his health, his wealth, and his friends, they've been worse than useless. So now, with everything stripped away, he just unleashes this final, sweeping speech, not for them, but for himself and for the silent God he so desperately needs to hear from.
So here's how we're going to break this down. We can actually trace Job's entire plea through these 5 chapters, like a deepening spiral. It's amazing. His mind moves from the sheer cosmic power of God down into his own personal integrity, out to the universal search for wisdom, and then it just comes crashing down into the painful memories of his past and the agony of his present.
Okay, first things first, Job looks up. He starts off with the sarcastic takedown of his friend's weak arguments, and then he basically says, "You want to talk about power? Let me show you what real power looks like." He paints this breathtaking picture of God's majesty, describing a force that is completely wild, untamable, and way beyond anything we can wrap our heads around.
I mean, just stop and think about that verse for a second. It is incredible. Thousands of years ago, Job is describing a world just suspended in the void, held up by nothing but a divine word. This isn't some small, manageable God. No, this is the architect of the entire cosmos.
And this is how he makes his point. He starts listing these incredible feats, holding water in clouds without them bursting, shaking the foundations of heaven, taming the sea. But then, and this is the key, he says all of this, everything we can see and observe, is just a whisper of God's ways. The full thunder of his power, we can't even begin to imagine it.
All right, let's follow that spiral as it turns. After looking at God's infinite, untouchable power, Job looks inward. He asks himself, okay, if the universe is completely out of my control, what is the one thing I can hold on to? And the answer is his integrity. And right here, he makes this incredibly solemn, defiant vow. This right here is the absolute core of Job's entire defense. And notice the crazy paradox here. He swears by the very same God who he claims has vexed his soul. So even while he's accusing God of being unjust, he absolutely refuses to lie and confess to sins he knows he didn't commit. His integrity is worth more to him than his comfort, maybe even more than his own life. So Job lays out this crucial distinction. He argues that the hope of a wicked person, a hypocrite, it's flimsy, it's temporary. Yeah, they might gain the whole world, but when real trouble hits, their whole foundation just turns to sand. But Job, he's building his entire case on the one thing that nobody can take from him, a clear conscience. That's his anchor in this horrific storm. So the spiral now widens out, moving from Job's personal struggle to something totally universal. Chapter 28, it's just this stunning, poetic interlude. The focus shifts from his own suffering to one of humanity's biggest quests, the search for wisdom. You could say this is the philosophical heart of his entire speech. Job uses this powerful metaphor, mining. He says, look, human beings are brilliant. We can dig deep into the darkest corners of the earth and pull out silver and gold and all these amazing treasures. We can find almost anything. But the one treasure we can't seem to find, no matter how deep we dig, is the source of real wisdom. And Job just lets that question hang in the air. He's made it crystal clear. Wisdom isn't in the ground beneath us. It's not in the sea. You can't buy it for all the gold in the world. It's hidden. So, where is it? And here's the profound answer he lands on. Wisdom isn't something we go out and discover, like a new continent. It's something we receive. It isn't some intellectual puzzle you solve. No, it begins with a posture, a sense of awe and reverence for God, and then a simple, practical commitment to doing the right thing. It completely reframes the whole search. Okay, so from that huge, universal quest for wisdom, the spiral turns sharply inward again. And I'll be honest, this is the most personal, most heart-wrenching part of Job's speech. He starts looking backward, remembering the man he used to be, and the blessed life that was just so violently torn away from him. He paints this incredibly vivid picture of a life that was just brimming with purpose and respect. He wasn't just rich, he was a pillar of his community, a force for justice, a man who felt like a friend of God. Princes would wait for him to speak. Now, this isn't just him being nostalgic. This is his evidence. This is the life that God's silence has now declared worthless. But now, these two little words, they mark one of the most devastating turning points in all of literature. The glorious past is about to give way to the horrifying present.
And here it is, the final, agonizing plunge. After remembering the incredible heights from which he has fallen, Job now describes in visceral detail the depths of his current humiliation and his pain. It is a raw, unfiltered cry straight from the ash heap.
The contrast is just staggering. The man who was once honored by nobles is now being mocked and spat upon by the lowest members of society. The champion for the poor is now completely helpless. His own body is a source of nonstop pain. His honor is gone like a puff of smoke, and his cries to God, they're met with nothing but silence. This one poetic line just captures his total and complete isolation. He's saying he feels more in common with wild, lonely creatures of the desert night than he does with other people, or with the God who seems to have completely abandoned him. He is utterly and terribly alone in his suffering.
And with that, he's done. Job's final plea is finished. He has surveyed the cosmos. He's defended his own soul. He's defined wisdom, and he has lamented his shattered life. There is nothing left to say. He falls silent, and he waits. And the question that just hangs there in that silence is the one we're left with. How will the universe, and the God who made it, finally answer him?